Isn't it that time that we start mandating all students to get the COVID vaccine? Or are they just over? Or is everyone out of their minds? Welcome to the show. Tonight's show is going to make you feel like you are a king on Pair of Kings. It's going to feel like Sasquatch. It's going to feel like you are sitting with a Sasquatch in your lap. Wait, that came out. It's going to feel like a Sasquatch sitting in your lap. So let's start off with the COVID cases, since we haven't done that much in that time. So, Texas, 22.2 million doses have been given. Fully vaccinated, 99.88 million people, and 34% of the population have had at least one dose. But what you need to do is realize if you're going to get the vaccine, you got to realize, you guys just go, if I get the vaccine, will I get COVID? If you ask that question, maybe you'll get a straight answer. Like, if you're tired of wearing the mask, you got to get that vaccine. I mean, we all got to do things. We need to make sure that we're vaccinated at 100%. And the question is, should schools mandate that all students get their COVID vaccine? Well, it's a question for the parents. I mean, we all know vaccinating students is against vaccinating children before they go to school is against the law. But what if a law meant that you had to give them the COVID vaccine also? If that law was to be put in place and it gave them COVID-19, lawsuits would be happening and the law would be overturned. And the results of these, I mean, California's 37 million doses, 18.9 million in New York, 18.1, 12.1 in Pennsylvania. That's good. We need to keep going. And again in Texas, I mean, doses have been given. What about the numbers? The cases, well, 294 cases, 51,366 deaths. El Paso, Collin County, here in Oasis County, 42,880 deaths, with 810 cases, with 814 deaths. So that's good. And for the statistics, new cases, in the 7-day average, 72.96, new cases have been up to 997%. So what does that mean for everyone? Well, the more people vaccines, the more vaccines that more people get the vaccines, the more the numbers will go down. Everyone needs to get the vaccine. If no one doesn't, then the numbers are going to be on the rise and more people will die, and we have another pandemic. We can't do that. We need to make sure that everyone's getting that vaccine and everyone's following the rules that I'm about to tell you right now. Masks, you need to wear them at the nose, the proper way to do it. Not down here, nor under the chin. It's hard to breathe, yes, but I get it. It's really hard to breathe. No one can hear you, but but you got to get used to it. And with the last day of school, you need to start realizing that it's going to be the last week for you guys to start learning how to disinfect your area and learn all these rules. Now, for some of you, the last day of school is going to be in June. I'll get to that in just a moment. Disinfect your area every time. You need to learn you need to be socially distanced. In fact, until the pandemic ends, what I recommend is you get the social distancing alarms that these social distancing alarms, like, this is a buzzer that alerts people. It's easy to scale in the workplace. It'll keep all your teams safe. You can buy space bands anyway. There's only like 24 pounds. You can get them in pink, orange, green, or blue. Get them in one size fits all. They're currently sold out, but you can find them on Amazon. Just look it up, click on shopping, and Ultimax. There's one on eBay being sold for $35. It's a social distancing wristband electronic device alert reminder so that you may understand. Free shipping, $34. That can help. A 2-pack for $65, so that's what I recommend. Wash your hands every 30 seconds with hot water. It helps kill the germs. Every hour if you're in a fast food restaurant. If your child's under 2 or if you have a medical condition, you need to let them know beforehand that before that happens. If they say he needs to wear a mask, so and so, then that's what your child should do, wear a mask. That's all tips I can give you so far until the pandemic ends. Anyway, we're going to take a break here because let's tell you what's coming up. What have we got coming up for you? Well, coming a bit later, I'm going to congratulate Linda Mendeley for being the new high school principal after she replaced Crenshaw. I'm happy for her, but I'll tell you about that a lot later in the show. But coming up is it's the last day of school this week. This week's the last day of school, and coming up next, I'm going to give you the most important message ever. Hear it when we come back. Up front tonight, it's the last day of school this week here in Fire Bluff, and while the others, it'll be happening in June. But the advice that I have for you kids, do not skip the last day of school. Those 8 words, you follow those 8 words, trust me, you can tell your children the same 8 words. Do not skip the last day of school. Those 8 words. Listen to those 8 words, and you can say goodbye to your teachers and all your friends. But these YouTubers, if you look up skipping the last day of school on YouTube, you get caught. There's a lot of videos of these people trying to skip the last day of school because they don't want to handle their teachers. I get it, but skipping the last day of school is not going to solve any of your problems. If you miss the last day, then it's going to be the last time. It is probably the worst thing ever. The worst thing ever. The worst thing the worst thing that you can do is eat a stick of butter and drink a gravy. That's the worst you can do. That's even worse. It says 3 worst things: skipping the last day of school, eating a stick of butter, and drinking gravy. Worse and disgusting, in my opinion. But when you skip the last day of school, already you are committing truancy. And that is wrong. In my opinion, the parents, they just lie to get their children out of the trouble. Look, it's the last day of school, but here in the Bluff, here's what I have to tell you. If you are exempt from the semester exams that they're giving you, if your parents sign that paper and it's turned into the teacher, then you can, then if you're exempt, you can leave the building and go to the cafeteria. If that doesn't happen anymore, then you have to take the semester exam and or just go to the cafeteria. But if you skip the school, your parent gets that phone call saying that you're not there or you're missing, all that kind of stuff, you are going to get in serious trouble. Call to the principal's office, detention next year. A lot of things can happen. It's just, do you know how many times I've skipped the last day of school during my time? 0. Except for the semester exams. That was 4 times I did. 1 for the first semester, 1 for the second semester. And now with all these kids trying to do it for YouTube videos, making a lot of money, non-profit things, it just blows my mind. They'd rather just drop out of school than do YouTube. They'd rather just drop out of school and do YouTube than just go into school. If your child does not go to school, your child is in violation of education laws. Your child's truant, and you as a parent are negligent. That's the law. And you may be thinking that I'm wrong, or you may be thinking that it's not right. You used to skip the last day of school. I get it. I've seen people skip class, skip school, heard stories about this, heard stories about skipping class to go get food. Like, it's maybe the last time you may be able to see your teacher. But most people, it could be the last time you can see the English teacher and your math teacher. For some, they may just go again. Freshmen it's not right to skip. Cameras will be everywhere. I've been talking about truancy all my life, all throughout the show, and if I had to make a pledge to stop truancy in Texas, I will. But we have to make sure that our children get the message. They get this message. Don't skip the last day of school, and they mean it. So, you skip the last. This is what happens. You're going to get suspended. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. That's the thing. And it may be a joke to some of you, but maybe a joke, but it's maybe a joke to you. It's not a joke to me, nor your parents. Everyone takes this very seriously. The laws is the law. You violate the law, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. And disciplinary action will be taken in some schools, but that's the deal here. All right. All right. Coming up. Come on, we're going to tell you about the dangers of unregulated childcare and what you can, and asking the question, whom will you trust to take care of your child? Your kid's going to be out of school for the last day. I mean, for work, who's going to take care of your child? What are the warning signs you need to know? We'll tell you next. Welcome back. It's a question for millions of parents. While you're at work, who's watching your kids? Well, as the school year ends for all the kids, that means that parents are going to have to watch their kids, or probably take them to summer camp or daycare, all that stuff. But who is watching your child? Tonight, we're going to look into the dangers of an unregulated childcare. Unless there's a liable relative who is willing to do the job, that determination is typically driven by the availability of finances. When it's safe, affordable, and accessible childcare is in short supply, the options that are left may not necessarily be the best for your family. According to the executive director of Children's Coalition of Francis County, children are sometimes put in danger because people are just unaware of the laws governing childcare. I mean, I just watched a couple of kids in my home. That's no big deal. You don't realize they're actually breaking the law. In that case, it's less about government intrusion and more about creating the safest possible by meeting appropriate standards. So, everyone in your home has a background check so that family can rest assured that children are in a safe place. Home inspector for safety hazards, child care provider, training, first aid, CPR, basic training, child development for guidance. So another intervention is becoming a registered licensed child care provider. They can get help paying their meals, get support from organizations, can take care of meals they need. They can all get their training for free so they're prepared to do the job. In the meantime, the Academy is offering a Children's Coalition on June 3rd and 4th for office. It's a 2-day course for teens and college kids who want to provide safe, healthy childcare for families in the summer. No students will learn about safety, health, ages, and stages. Positive guidance for techniques, basic practices that they can start their own babysitting services. Second day of the course is provided by First Aid. 2-day class will cost about $50 per student. If you want one more, if you're in Aransas County and you want to do this, you can visit their website, www.childrenscoalitionac.org. Of course, we'll have that on our website. That's jkermtakes7.wixsite.com/givemeabreak in the description below for all the latest topics and tips. And with that in mind, the question is, what is unregulated childcare? Well, unregulated family child caregivers do not need a license or are inspected and monitored. They are not required to meet specified regulations for training, physical space, or any other features. Some provinces and fraternities allow unregulated child care in settings and grievances homes. I mean, it is very serious. I mean, if you're going to register for child care, you need to make sure that you have a background check. You need to make sure that you haven't committed a crime. And in the case of what happened in 2012, Dateline did a story about child care. I mean, looking over police records, asking caregivers questions like, "Have you ever committed this crime or that crime?" You need to do. I mean, for parents out there, if you're gonna look for child care in your state, here in the state, you need to do your homework. You need to do your homework. Visit the center in person. Look at references. That's not the case here. You need to make sure that you're doing your homework. You need to ask these questions. Before you go into daycare, you need to interview that caregiver, making sure you know what you're doing, so they can understand, like, oh, this is why they came here to ask the questions. Like, you need to ask questions like, have you ever committed a crime? Have you ever, like, if they say no, and they can ask, can I see your background check? And say sure. If not, you need to walk away. But when there are licenses, you need to have a daycare license. You need to follow the laws here. If you don't follow those laws, you could go to jail and lose your license. I mean, the daycare industry is just... It's just that if you are going to put your child in daycare center, you need to make sure you're doing your homework a lot of times. You need to ask important questions. You need to visit the center. You need to make sure that you know what you're doing so that your child could be safe. And in those cases that happen, like Joshua, there are tips. I mean, there are requirements. You need to have a license. It's not mandatory. You need to have a license. High school diploma or equivalent. There are things you need to know, and when I watched this story years ago, it struck me that it just struck me. And you have to make sure that the state is doing their job also. That's what I forgot to tell you. You need to make sure that if you haven't, just ask them. If you ever committed a crime before and if their record is open, then you are more than welcome to look into that, and you can find out for yourself whether or not that person's telling the truth. If they're not telling the truth, take a child with you and walk away. I'll be back in a moment. If you want, before we move on to our final thought, if you want to learn more about your child caregiver, you need to make sure you write down the first and last name, and then visit LexisNexis.com. And there may be some things you have to do before you can check in with their criminal history and all that stuff, and they'll help you out. Alright, so in other news tonight, Linda Medley, who was the assistant principal of Flower Bluff High School until Mr. James Crenshaw decided to move up to the superintendent thing, and she was named the first woman. She was named the principal after the school board voted. So now there's a new assistant principal coming. Her name is Amy C., the principal over at ECC. I congratulate them both for all their hard work, and they're watching this. I'd like for you to come by. Sit down with me. We can talk about how did you first become, talk about things and what people need to do. As a final thought, we need to make sure that we all want what is best for our children. If we want to, finding the best daycare center ever, yes, you need to make sure that you're doing your homework. You need to make sure that you need to ask questions and all that kind of stuff. You also got to make sure your state's doing some thorough checking. But when people don't check, oftentimes they're letting the person get away with child abuse and all that kind of stuff. The same thing with this licensing. They also need to make sure that they're not committing any crimes. If you stay out of trouble, then you're free to do a daycare center, to start a daycare center, or just go work with the daycare center. In this case here from Dateline, there are things you can't do. You need to do your homework. You need to make sure your child's there. If not, walk away. Find another one. And if nothing happens, you're in the dead end here until you find someone that you can trust. Someone who hasn't been arrested for anything or hasn't committed any crimes. So until next time, take care of yourself and each other. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Monday. Good night.